Hey everybody, my name is Jared, these are my dishes, and without further ado, let's get going. I guess I'd introduce you first and foremost to my good friend, Ecos Hypoallergenic Dishmate Dish Soap. Cuts grease and loves hands, thank goodness. Bamboo lemon scented, highly recommended. This is not a paid sponsorship, but I am hoping that we could one day do a collab at some point. This is not a big money maker. That said, if you enjoy the content, smash the like button, as PewDiePie says. Let's jump into it. I love doing the dishes. It's a nice way to just slow down your day, get into a mindful headspace, zone out a little bit, drift off. I feel like so much of our days we have to be just so focused all the time. It's really nice to have a habit where you're able to just kind of let your mind go. I wonder if you all have any habits like that or hobbies like that where you just kind of, get into a flow state where you're not really thinking about much and you're just able to kind of be. I think we all need that now more than ever. Living in quarantine, living in the pandemic, I don't know about you, but sometimes it's really hard. Think about it, it's been like 10 months here in New York where things have been shut down. It takes a toll. So to be able to find some time in your everyday, you're able to sit back and say, man, it's a crazy world, but at least I've got control over these dishes right now. It's kind of nice. I like dishes because you get to take pride in them, how clean they get. I used to have a few dishwashing jobs. I have great respect for dishwashers. There is great skill to it. I hate the expression unskilled labor. It's like there is no such thing as unskilled labor. Anybody working is exhibiting a really crucial skill. I think we found that this year in the pandemic and the quarantine, talked about essential workers, right? The people in society who we finally recognized as a whole that society couldn't go on without. Sanitation workers, frontline healthcare workers, teachers. We have a real need for all sorts of labor, no matter how stereotyped they may be. You might write into the chat if you've ever been stereotyped. Leave a comment after you smash the subscribe button, smash the like button, maybe leave a comment if you've ever been stereotyped before. Maybe reflect on how it made you feel. I've been stereotyped before. It's not so fun. It's one of those things, I think people just make assumptions about who you are or what you're about, where you're from, without really wanting to do the work of getting to know people. I think it can be difficult to get to know people. It takes a certain level of vulnerability, a certain level of effort. I think, the easier thing to do, the lazier thing to do is kind of just to make assumptions, But it's one of those exercises in empathy, right? You wouldn't want somebody to make assumptions about you necessarily, right? or maybe I'm projecting here, but I know that I certainly wouldn't want that. I'd rather people engage me in conversation and really get to know me and, you know, what I'm about and what I've been through and where I hope to go and how we get there together. You know, I don't think there's enough of that these days. You know, back in my day, boomers, you know, classic. But I think you see that we just had this, you know, this big election here in the United States, and you know, there's a lot of divide just between people that could otherwise come together and just have conversations, you know. You know, we're all in this together. We don't get anywhere by ignoring each other. Nobody wants to be ignored. That's why some people are so upset, you know? They feel like they've been left behind or not cared for by people that are supposed to care for them. I completely get that feeling. Maybe you write into the chat the time that you feel like you've been left behind. You know, what was that feeling like? Write it into the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I think it's important that we share stories, right? When we share stories about, you know, how we've been made to feel by others, I think we find that we have a lot more common ground than meets the eye. Oh, wow, you've been treated like that before? Hey, I've been treated like that before too. Yeah, that really stinks. One of my students asked me last week, said, have you ever smoked a cigarette before? And I think it's important that we be honest with each other, you know, that we pass on the lessons that we've learned, especially as older folks. You know, I feel like kids are born into this world without context. And so if we don't teach them, you know, if we don't share with them the stories of our lives and the lessons that we've lived through, right, then we're setting the kids up to make maybe the same mistakes that we made. Maybe they're going to make those mistakes anyway. I don't know, but I certainly think it helps to, you know, share our experiences and help guide the younger generation. You know, it's kind of like, there's this guy, Parker Palmer, who once said that, you know, we have this real need right now in society for like these intergenerational discussions, right? That we're all headed for the same horizon, but people of an older generation, you know, if they're here on the way to the horizon, young people are here, the older generation can't see all of this that the younger people see. And if we're all heading for that same spot, we need to be talking, we need to be sharing, and we need to be helping each other out to better understand, you know, where we go from here. You know, there's just so much to be concerned about. I think about it all the time. Sometimes I think about it too much. I feel like maybe you write into the comment section below what you're most concerned about the future. Maybe you're feeling a little more hopeful than that today, and maybe you write into the comments about what you're feeling most hopeful about for the future. Depends on just how you're feeling today. Sometimes I'm feeling in a hopeful mood, a little more positive. Sometimes, you know, these things get to me. It's only natural. We have our ups and downs, us people. It's like sometimes I think it would be easier to be like a flower or a plant, you know? I feel like they've got a better understanding of it all. I think about it, like what the average lifespan of a human is, like 80 years, something like that, if you're lucky to live in a certain society or a certain community within a certain society. And then you think about like certain trees have lived for hundreds of years. It's like, what have they figured out, you know? We're all made up of the same stuff, right? They've got it made. Just soaking up the sun, feeling the snow on their branches. Very impressive beings. always interested in trees. They've got this really incredible sense of empathy, actually. In forest systems, for instance, if there are certain plants or certain trees that aren't getting enough light and enough nutrients, trees that are getting enough light and therefore able to complete more photosynthesis or soaking up more nutrients in the soil because they have larger square footage and access to the soil in their roots, they will send from one root system to the next enough nutrients to sustain the other trees that aren't getting enough. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. I think there's something poetic in there, maybe something we could learn from. So maybe you write into the comments section what your favorite tree is. My favorite tree is the dogwood. I love the dogwood tree. I don't believe it's native to the United States where I live. I think it was a gift from, no, it is. It is native to the United States. We gifted the dogwood tree to Japan in exchange for the cherry blossom. And so if you go to Washington, D.C., right around the Lincoln Memorial and the Jefferson Rotunda, we've got these beautiful cherry blossoms, and they all come out at the same time in about early April. And it's just such a marvelous thing. All the incredible colors, just like what a beautiful expression of life. So you might share in the comments section what your favorite tree is. I also like sycamore trees, also known as London plane trees. Really nice look. I like their bark a lot. And that's about it for tonight. This is what we're working with in the dishwasher. This is the final product. This is what we worked for tonight. A nice, organized dishwasher. Really happy with it tonight. We'll go over, I think, in the next episode, the next installment of Dishes with Jared, how I go about organizing the dishes within the dishwasher. There is a methodology behind this, but I don't want to ruin the surprise, so you'll have to tune in next time for Dishes with Jared. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you again soon.